Good evening, everyone. My name is Chiesaka Kibara, and as Professor Reed just kindly introduced myself to you all, I'm Associate Professor of Geography and the Environment, and I also have a joint appointment with Arts and Sciences in Native American and Indigenous Studies. My research explores the intersection between climate change and cultural resiliency of indigenous peoples of the circumpolar area and beyond. And I'm actually very new at SU, so I can totally relate to you all. And I'm really looking forward to meeting everybody here and try to grow myself as an individual as much as a scholar. So it's very nice to meet you.
Thanks, Julie. Bob, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Bob Wilson. I'm a professor in the Department of Geography in the Environment, and I teach a number of environmental courses in the department and with the ESP major on a field called environmental history. I also teach a class called Animals in History that looks at animals more from a social science and humanities perspective. And I also co-teach the capstone course, which I think Professor Reed will tell you a little bit more about. And that is a team taught course between somebody like myself, which is a little bit more in the social science and humanities. And I teach that class with a professor in earth science who is an expert in climatology.
Cool, thank you. And I'm in the Department of Geography and the Environment also, and I teach one of the basic requirement courses, Global Environmental Change, but I also focus in on land use and land cover change, specifically down sort of Latin America and Central America. And I use GIS, Geographic Information Systems, and remote sensing imagery to help sort of understand what's happening on the surface of the Earth. So we cover a fair range of sort of the discipline of geography. Before we get going, there are quite a few of you here. So I was wondering if we could just do a show of hands for how many of the students on this call are declared incoming declared ESP incoming students. Are you able to find the little hands and raise your hand and show us if you've already declared this major? It's just interesting to see how many of you are 100% declared on this or think you are. Okay, cool. So we have 5 students there. That's great. And so you guys can lower your hands. And those of you who are on the call who didn't just raise your hands, I'm assuming that you're all interested in some way in the environment, sustainability, and policy major. If that's true, can you raise your hand? You can find your hands. There you go. Okay. All right. Cool. Thank you. All right. Good. So that's good. So some of you, I don't know that everybody raised their hands. So is anybody, I don't know if you're able to write in chat for us, maybe write down the reason, like why you're here on this call, because then we can maybe figure out what it is you'd like to know. So if you're a declared major, you're a declared major. If you're just vaguely interested in ESP, or are you just hunting around for whatever? So maybe pop in chat just what it is you're here on the call for. And we won't hold you to any of this if you do. Oh, are you all able to chat? I don't know. Can anybody chat?
I was able to chat. I sent Chia a message, so presumably the students will be able to chat.
Are you guys able to chat? Can you say hi? I'm declared ESP. Hi. I have no idea what ESP is. I don't think they're able to chat. We did. Oh, excellent. Annabelle, thank you. Okay, great. Sarah wants to learn more about ESP. All right, here we go. You guys can chat. Good. All right. Well, use that chat so that we can figure out, if you have any questions, I'll try and keep an eye on it. And hopefully Bob and Chia also can keep an eye on the chat so that we make sure that we're answering any of the questions that you might have. All right. Well, so I'm admitted to the program, would like to know more. Excellent. All right. There you guys. You guys are there. All right. So what I want to do is just I'll give you a really, really brief summary of what this program is all about. But remember that we do have Chia and Bob here also to help answer questions. Unfortunately, I had hoped we'd have some current students also here to help answer questions, because oftentimes they're the best people to answer questions for us, but they weren't able to join us today. As you probably know, we're pretty far along in the semester, and students are starting to get a little stressed out with all the work that they have to get done. All right, so I'll just say very briefly, I'll give you a 5-minute rundown of what this major is about, and then we can dive into any kind of questions that you might have. So the major is situated, it's sort of administered in the Department of Geography and the Environment, but it is a completely interdisciplinary major. This is one of the fastest growing majors that we have on campus. Right, it was approved in 2018, and we currently have well over 120 majors. So it's been a huge success, and part of the reason for that is that it feeds a demand for what students are interested in learning about. So the students come from almost all colleges on the university. So it really is a truly interdisciplinary major. It's super exciting. And also some of the professional schools that we have. I think there's a total of around 23 departments that are represented in the students that we have in the program. And basically, so what we're doing is we are bringing together students from all across the university who want to be trained in environmental issues and sustainability. So I'll really quickly share, I'm going to pop back and forth. I'll share my screen if I can find the right one. Here it is. You can see here that hopefully what I'm sharing is just the list of different departments that are approved as base majors for our major. And so I guess what I probably should explain to you, because some of you might be a little confused, you've come into the university maybe declaring ESP as your major, but in order to do ESP, you actually do need another major. You need a base major, because what we do is we bring together students with disciplinary expertise, say in anthropology, biology, biotech, all of those different departments and disciplines. So you have a base major, and then you declare ESP as your dual major. So what you have is a lot of students all coming from different backgrounds, different experiences, and all sort of bringing that to our major. So we have lots and lots of, it's exciting because we get people who are very interested in different things. And let's stop sharing there. I hope my technology keeps working. So, but of all the students that we have, most of them are going to be interested in, and I'm assuming you guys are also interested in this, right? These mounting problems that we're starting to see, mounting problems of climate change. We saw how the pandemic has impacted society. It's also impacting massively our environment for various different reasons. But we're also, a lot of students who enter this program are quite interested in sort of social justice, social sort of inclusion type issues. So there's a lot of reasons why you might want to be part of the ESP major. The other reason is that we are looking at now an expanding job market that really is looking for students who have some kind of training in either environment or sustainability. So, so the way that ESP works is we bring together the natural sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities in a sort of real truly interdisciplinary sort of program in order to be able to understand how all of our sort of interacting natural systems and human society all sort of intersect and interact, and how that then how we might then take that knowledge and try to understand how we can sustainably maintain our planet. So it's not an environmental studies major, it's not an environmental science major. It is basically blending all of your natural science, your social science, and your humanities together to try to understand these environmental problems that we're facing. So as I said, in order to do that, it's not a traditional major, it's a dual major. You have your own interdisciplinary major, and then we have our environment, sustainability and policy major on top of that. Okay, let me screen. Okay, so why don't I actually stop right there? We can talk a little bit about the requirements and different opportunities, but does anybody have any questions about any of that at this time? Just want to see if there's anybody want to interrupt and say anything. Bob, Chie, did you want to say anything at this time?
Not right now. I'd be interested to hear if they have any questions. If they don't, I can talk about things such as the capstone or the Geo 103, the introductory course that I teach. And then obviously you can talk about, Jane, the introductory science courses that are offered, things such as that.
All right, cool. Well, Sarah has said how many courses are required each semester. So I can talk a little bit about the requirements, the sort of the basic requirements of the ESP major. So basically, for the ESP major, you fit it in around your other majors. So there's no sort of set requirements for what you have to take each semester. So it's quite flexible in that respect. So what we do have, I'll quickly share my screen one more time with, and actually all I'm doing is I'm going right now to the to our web page just to show you this information, and I'll show you the web page later. But so we have some core requirements that everybody has to take. And so the core requirements, those are 3 courses. Each course is 3 credits, so it's 9 credits total. And what that requires, that's just sort of basic introduction to, you need an environmental science course, an environmental studies course, and a methods course or a data analysis course. So you have 3 of your basic requirement courses, and there are several courses in each of those categories that you can choose from. So, and sometimes the course that you might be choosing from might also serve as one of the requirements, say, for your base major. So there can be some, especially in the introductory courses, there's a lot of sharing between your majors and your core requirements that you need. So you have 3 basic courses that you need. And then on top of that, we have what we call our science policy integration course, which is sort of looking at, that's the first time, that's a real course where we try to bring the disciplines together. So really looking at sort of how environmental and sustainability policies sort of come together and trying to understand that. So you have that course. Then we have 12 elective credits that you need. So 4 additional elective courses, and we have long lists of courses that you can choose from that. 2 of them will come from the environmental sciences and 2 from the environmental studies / humanities. And so the major is making sure that you're really that you're getting coursework from all realms. So, and again, some of those courses might, you can share a certain number of courses with your majors, even at the upper level course credit. So you'll take those 4 electives, and then you've just got one capstone seminar. I say just one capstone seminar. The capstone seminar, which you'll take in your senior year. It's usually taught in the fall, and Bob has taught that. This is his 2nd time he's going to be teaching it this fall coming up, so he can talk to you more about that. So there aren't a ton of courses here, and because you can share quite a few of them, it's really not going to be that many. The key is figuring out which courses you want to take, right? And so when you get your basic requirement courses and you've taken, say, an environmental science course, an environmental studies course, a humanities course, then once you've taken a couple of those, you'll start to say, oh yeah, I think I really like earth sciences, or I think I really, I think I'm much more into sort of the social justice side of things. So maybe I'll do geography, or maybe I'll do political science. Or maybe we have management majors here who are interested in supply chain management, and then they're interested in figuring out how to, understand sustainability and the environment through that lens. And so then they'll be dipping into all of these different courses and discovering which side of things they prefer and where they're most interested. So that means that, so I can't tell you exactly how many courses you're going to be taking each semester, but it's, and some majors are stricter than others. So, if you are in environmental engineering, for instance, there are certain courses you have to take in a particular semester. And that's something that, you would have to talk with your environmental engineering advisor about. And then we advise you around that. There's another question that Annabelle just asked, and that is doing a double major while in the honors program difficult to do? No, it's not. We have quite a few students who are doing that. In fact, quite a few of the honors students are ESP majors. It's something that we do. And so, there are different requirements, and there will be some additional requirements in there, but it's a lot of them, like I say, will be able to match across. So no, Annabelle, is definitely a doable thing, especially if you're coming in now knowing what you need. We can make sure that you're taking courses that are really relevant all across the board. So it's great if you come in knowing what you want, then you can definitely do that. Bob has a response.
I would just add to that. So I co-taught the capstone course for seniors this year. They'd had 26 students in that. I would probably guess 6 or 7 of them were honors students. Of those 6 or 7, 2 of them were Coronat students, which are a very, I guess, kind of select group of honors students. One of those students is also doing an honors thesis related to her honors program. So we get lots of honors students in the classes. They go all the way through in the capstone, and it seems to work quite well with their honors program. ESP and honors work quite well together.
Cool, thank you. What else? I'm just keeping an eye on seeing if anybody has any other questions. Did I miss any questions? I don't think I have, right? Okay, cool. So that's the basic requirements, and the way that it works here at SU is it really depends which college you're in as you come in as you come in. If you're in arts and sciences in Maxwell, You know, your arts and sciences has a whole advising system that is set up, and we work quite closely with them. If you're in engineering, you'll have your advisor in engineering, but they'll also understand what the ESP major needs, and I'll, you know, be in communication with them too. So the ESP major actually has, I think we have something like 14 faculty. So the three of us is not just what you see with ESP. We have many other faculty who are really invested in this program. They are from all across different departments. So if you're, say, maybe you're interested in earth sciences, or you decide you come in and you start taking some courses as part of ESP, but you have to take some basic arts and sciences core courses anyway, you would come in, you'd start taking courses, and say, okay, great, I really like my earth science courses. These are just fantastic. I just want to keep going down that route. I'm clearly, you know, I really like the science side of things. I really gel with that. So you might go in there, and then maybe you would declare, you know, your environmental science, earth science as your base major, and then we work together to make sure that those all fit properly. What else was I going to say about that? I don't know. Oh, I can tell you this, which is kind of exciting, and unless people don't put some questions in, I'll just keep saying what I was going to say, and then we'll stop for questions. One thing that's kind of exciting right now is we're actually going to try to keep incoming ESP majors who come in as a sort of cohort. We're going to try and identify some courses so that you all take the same courses together if you're in arts and sciences. And that way, we'll really try to get a nice cohort together. You get to know each other, because as incoming freshmen, sometimes you can feel a bit lost in a university. And so that's going to be a really interesting way for us to keep you all together, and then maybe we can do activities, you know, in the fall, just to keep everybody together, and then you'll be able to talk to each other about I'm taking this course, course is great, or, you know, talk about what other courses you might be taking. So we're hoping we can, this is the first year we'll do that, and I'm excited that we'll be able to create a nice tight cohort of you all. All right, what else do I need to say? Anything else? Any other questions about the major that I've just assumed you know and you probably don't? Bob, do you want to talk a little bit about, say, Geo 103?
Sure. So one of the things that I think may be a little bit confusing to some of you is, I know in high school, some of you may have taken an environmental science course. I think one of the advanced placement AP courses is called environmental science. In the ESP major, we require you to take an introductory course in the natural sciences. It might be a class called the natural environment or the global environment. These are two natural science courses offered in our department, and there are a couple courses offered in earth science. But there's another course that, in addition to a natural science course, you need to take at the introductory level. That's called Geo 103 Environment and Society. And that is the introductory course for that requirement that most students take. It's a little bit different. I mean, it basically focuses on the social, political, and cultural dimensions of environmental issues. So while it is informed by natural sciences, the things you might learn, say, in a biology class, chemistry class, or an environmental science class, the focus is different. One way that I might say to help explain that, so if you wanted, like, say, climate change, if you really wanted to understand the nitty-gritty of the science of climate change, you would take a class such as Global Environmental Change with Professor Reed, and there's some other courses that might do that. If you want to understand why climate change has proved such a difficult problem to address, then you take Environment and Society, where at an introductory level, we talk about the political dimensions of climate change. We also talk about climate change denialism, like why some people deny the science of climate change. And then we talk about the social dimensions of climate change, why particular groups of people are more vulnerable to things such as sea level rise or storms or wildfires, such as in the Western United States. And from that, we would kind of be adopting kind of a social justice or environmental justice perspective. So by taking those introductory courses, say this Geo 103 Environment Society, as well as the science courses I mentioned, from the get-go, you're getting an introduction to these scientific dimensions of environmental issues and the social, political, and cultural dimensions of environmental issues. And with the ESP major, Professor Reed as director, and I think all of us think it's important to both understand these issues and then try and address them. We need to know both the natural science aspects of that, as well as the social, political, and cultural aspects of that. And again, Geo 103 focuses on kind of the latter half of the things I just mentioned.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, and I'll say that I think we have some phenomenal teachers actually teaching some of these courses. A lot of students who don't come in wanting to learn about the environment, in the second, third, fourth year will be like, I really want to learn about the environment. So we get some students who they know right off the get-go, they're really interested in the environment, but others will take some of these basic courses for whatever reason, right? There are different reasons, but a lot of these courses will fulfill different requirements for different programs, and they'll discover that and carry on with that. Chie. Can't hear you. Can we? Can you guys hear Chie? We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yes, good. Sorry, my microphone is acting funky, but yeah, I had a question myself, but I realized Parker asked the question. Is ESP compatible with being a Discovery Program student?
Yes, there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to follow the ESP program, right? So the Discovery program is designed to sort of, you're supposed to be able to, you take the standard courses that you would in your first semester, wherever you happen to be, and you're supposed to be able to come back on an equal footing. So they will, even if you can't take, maybe, I don't know which of the specific courses that you might be able to take, but even if you can't take a specific ESP course, you can start that in your second semester or when you get back to SU, and it doesn't really put you behind at all. You have sets of courses that you have to take as part of your degree, and so if you clear some of them as a Discovery student, all in one go, then that opens up space for taking any of the required ESP courses. But the courses that you'll be taking as a Discovery student, I think, are going to really depend on where you're going. But the admissions folks and the advisors will be able to make sure, they'll know that you're a declared ESP major or you're interested in declaring ESP, and they'll be able to help make sure that you're taking the right ones when you're there.
Great. Maddie has a question. Are there any study abroad programs that are comparable with ESP?
Comparable. They're compatible with ESP is what I would say. So SU Abroad, if you haven't, I'm sure they've told you about SU Abroad, but we have a really nice abroad program. And I encourage everybody to go abroad if they possibly can. And depending on where you go, there may be some of our centers might be more relevant to what you're interested in than others. Obviously, you go to the one where your base major maybe might be more relevant. But there are definitely centers that we have that you'll be able to take courses. What we do is we can see what kind of coursework there is in our SU Abroad programs, and even if they're not listed as ESP courses, we oftentimes are able to petition for them to count for ESP just because they include an environmental component. So yeah, depending on where you go, you could get some really good courses, right? So a lot of architecture students actually will be going to Florence, but there's actually quite a few of those courses have quite a lot of environmental content in them. Or you might go to London, and there you're going to get a lot of sort of business environment courses as well that are relevant there. If you can speak Spanish, our Santiago Center will have tons of courses that will be relevant there. So, so as you're looking around the different SU Abroad places you can go, you can look for the ESP specified courses. Those are ones you just take. They've already been accepted for the program, but there are many courses that are being added all the time to a lot of programs. And so, you know, it's just a matter of figuring out which ones might be relevant or not. Bob, did you want to add to that?
So I would add to that we're beginning to offer some shorter kind of week or maybe 2 week long programs that are related to ESP. This year over spring break, we were supposed to have a 1 week ESP program in Costa Rica, where we go to Costa Rica for a week. I was supposed to go on that, accompany the students, and led by some of our partners in Costa Rica that would be talking about sustainability issues in Costa Rica. As some of you may know, Costa Rica is a real leader in sustainability initiatives, particularly for such a relatively small country. And we were quite excited about that program. It was an amazing set of speakers who were going to come, including like the sustainability director for the country of Costa Rica. There's also going to be some time to experience some of the towns and the beach and the jungle of Costa Rica. That was canceled because of COVID this year, because COVID, the Omicron wave was hitting Costa Rica later than here. And so the caseload was going way up in Costa Rica, so we have to cancel that. But there is a hope, and there's certainly a big desire both from our partners in Costa Rica as well as the Maxwell School, which is the part of the university that the ESP is housed, that we'll be able to do that again next year. So that would be one example that for those of you who are willing to or don't want to go for, say, a full semester abroad, might be able to do these week-long programs. And my understanding, Jane, is that Jay Golden, who's a new professor who does kind of finance and sustainability, that he offers some sort of ESP week-long program, I think, on kind of corporate sustainability in Europe over the summer. But I don't know many details about that.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's running this summer. We have quite a few students who are interested in taking his class there. So yeah, so there are opportunities, and you know, they're building, and especially for ESP. I mean, we have, and you know, you can go to Australia, you can go to South Africa. There's a ton of lots of things you could do, and you know, as a geographer, go abroad, please. Go learn abroad. And as we know, the environment doesn't stop at political boundaries, right? It crosses, and climate change covers the entire globe. So it actually is really essential that we get, you know, it's good to get an international perspective. Talking of opportunities for ESP students, there's also lots of opportunities on campus. Say you don't want to go abroad, or you know, for whatever reason, or maybe you can't fit it in with your base major. Some base majors are a little restrictive in terms of whether you can go abroad or not. But so there's lots of opportunities on campus. So for instance, I've just been talking with the Office of Sustainability Management here at SU, and they do a ton of internships with students working on sustainability issues specifically on campus. So we have students who are doing internships over there with them, and they may be like, do it for a semester and then add to it for a semester, right? So these internships can, and they're really helpful because it can really help build your resume, give you experience, right? So the types of things that students have done is looking at recycling on campus. I think one student has been looking at how to phase out the use of plastic bags in the university bookstore, things like that. They have a garden, a farm here on campus that, you know, that some of the students will work in. So there are lots of opportunities like that there. We also have a program, a university-wide program to fund undergraduate research, where you can actually work with a faculty member and get funds to do that. Maybe it's over the summer or maybe it's during the semester. But that's something that is definitely something ESP students will be able to do, just because, you know, you identify a faculty member who, you know, is doing something that might be of interest to you, or, you know, they have expertise in what you're interested in doing, and you just work with them to get the money and do the work. So there are a lot of opportunities for on-campus or off-campus type work. What else? Anything else? Oh, I have one other thing. We are setting up, well, the university, it's fairly new. The university's in the process of setting up what they refer to as it's a living learning community, where students will live on a floor together, say in a residence hall. And it's not an ESP living learning community, but it is an environment and sustainability living learning community. And so that might be something, like, if you're coming into the university new, think about whether you want to do that. It might not be something you want to do, but maybe you do. And I can foresee, I mean, there will be some activities, not a ton, but there'll be activities to sort of grow that cohort of people who all have the same kind of interests in the environment. So that's another opportunity that I think is really great for incoming students. Any other questions? You're all being so quiet.
There's a question from Vivian Nash.
Oh.
Is it easy to change base majors within ESP?
Yeah, I mean, some students agonize about, oh, I've got to choose a major. It's actually, to change a major is really easy as a piece of paper. But what happens is, you know, if you're in your senior year, it's going to be very hard to change your major, right? Because it'll be almost impossible probably to get the right courses that you need before you graduate. But yeah, you can definitely, there's no rule that says, you know, you came in wanting to do international relations as your major, you declared that, you've got ESP declared, and then you're like, actually, I think I really want to do political science. There's nothing to say you can't do that. It's just the same sort of reasoning that, regardless of whether you have a dual major, or not, it's the same thinking. Like, what do you have to think about when you change your major? And usually it's, do I have enough time to move over to a new major to get all of those requirements in? You know, do I have the right GPA? All that kind of stuff, if there are those regulations. So yeah, I mean, it's as easy as any other major, I would say.
Okay, Professor Reed, as a newcomer myself, let me ask you a question about ESP. So ESP was approved in 2018, right? This makes 2022 the fourth year. So we really haven't produced any graduates yet. But is that correct?
We actually have. So we have produced about 19 graduates, I believe is the number, last year. And this year we will produce some more. So
Okay,
Yeah.
this is exciting. That leads me to my next question. That is, so what do they do beyond SU
Well,
with
it's
this?
a good question. That is a good question because I actually I haven't followed our alumni to see where they're working. Yeah, I honestly, where they've landed up, I don't know. Bob, do you have any idea where they're landing up at this point?
I have a few, and that is a little more difficult because there's been relatively few graduates over the past few years, and then many of them are just graduates. So it's for those of the students who are out there coming in, it's pretty common after you graduate to like do a number of little different jobs, and then you kind of land on what you want. I know one student, a student from China, he has gone on to grad school at NYU. Is more social sciences oriented with a little bit of environmental focus. Another student, she went on and earned a master's degree in kind of ocean policy. And now she's coming back to earn her PhD in our department, actually in the geography department. She's going to be one of my students, and she's going to be working on kind of environment, sustainability and recreation on a project with me. So those are two students that I can tell you offhand. But we're now going to have a lot more. Like this year, I would imagine we're going to at least have 25, 26 graduates. So it's just, I think because our program is so young, it's really hard to say everything they're going to be going into. And having a really, firm kind of grasp. I will say there's interest in students in going into environmental law. 3 of the students who took ESP classes, the capstone with me this year, I'm writing a law school application, recommendations for them right now. So that gives you an example of the interest that some of them have in going into environmental law.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Wilson. Yeah, with an interdisciplinary major like this, I really feel that the sky is the limit. And I just wish there was a major like this when I was an undergraduate student.
Yeah.
I'd say that 100%. I mean, there was nothing like that, back in the Pleistocene when I went to college, but so they didn't really have anything like that. But yeah, I wish there would have been something like this. When I was an undergrad, I'll just tell the students, incoming students who are out there, there's just enormous excitement for the professors to have an opportunity to teach this. A few years ago, as you've heard, this is not a very old major, but a few years ago, we only had 3 or 4 students in the program. And now we have, Professor Reed can give you the exact number, but I think it's somewhere between 120 and 130. The senior capstone class a few years ago had a handful of students in it. It had 26 students in it when I co-taught it with a professor from earth science, and there's just a lot of dynamism in it. It's exciting to be as a professor, be part of a program when there's so much interest among the students, but I think the students find it exciting as well, which is why they're gravitating towards me.
I'm really looking forward to contributing to this ESP initiative. Meanwhile, there's a question from Elena. What are some of the internship opportunities that students have done in the past, or ones that are available to students?
Okay, I can speak to some of it, but Bob, you might know of some of them. So some of our students have done some internships, as I said, with our Office of Sustainability Management. I should actually, I don't know where it is. The university newsletter covered them, a couple of our students doing internships there. But there are other places to do internships, and so we have, you can do an internship with any external company. So there's Professor Jay Golden in the Maxwell School. He actually teaches courses around internships. So what he does is you take a course, and yet then you go and you work, or you act as a consultant to different companies that he has sort of made arrangements with. So students can really do internships with any entity that has some relevant project related to it. And so sometimes it's courses and then the professors will have the context, but sometimes a student will come and say, hey, I've got this opportunity over the summer to work with a particular organization, and is it possible for me to work in this as an internship? And then, you know, there's some paperwork to be done and some agreements, and you need an internship supervisor and things like that. But, you know, so some of them are more formal and more sort of, yep, we're going to do this internship. And some of them can be sort of a little bit more customized. Yeah. So there are internships. Most of the internships are going to be off campus, except that, you know, the Office of Sustainability Management has some really good ones. Are there others, Bob, any specific ones you can think of?
Not that I know of. I mean, one of the things that, I mean, this predates ESP that I encourage students to apply for in the summer is a program that's not associated with SU, but called the Student Conservation Association. And I encourage all of the incoming students that are out there in Zoom land to kind of enter that in their browser and to read about it. They offer internships with natural resource agencies such as the National Park Service, Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, and then some kind of state agencies. And they're a great opportunity because many of those resource agencies, those nature protection agencies, wildlife protection agencies, are often very understaffed. And so the Student Conservation Association provides the money to get you to those places, to pay kind of a stipend while you're there, pay for your lodging. And then the Park Service or the Fish and Wildlife Service, whatever, puts you to work on projects. And the students I've known who have done it through SU have found it invaluable. I'll say, as somebody who way back when I was in college, I did the Student Conservation Association for 2 different summers, and they were great for me. I worked as a ranger in Alaska, and then I also worked as a ranger in Olympic National Park in Washington State. And it really, in some ways, it kind of set me up for the rest of my career. So that's just kind of one example that students can potentially do. And I think as an ESP major, you'd be very competitive for those internships. Quite frankly, more competitive than I was when I was in college and got those internships through the SCA.
Yeah, and another way that you can, whether it's called an internship, but it's possible to do what we refer to as independent studies. And so that's where, you know, if you find you have an opportunity to, say, work with a professor who, you know, has some research over the summer, and it's not like an official internship, you can actually get independent study credit where, you know, again, that's an agreement. It's sort of a contract that you have, and you're going to, you know, have certain outcomes as a result of doing this research. But then that's another way to get, you know, research experience on your resume. So one of the things that, you know, you might be just leaving high school and coming in and thinking, oh, I'm just going to start my college degree. But the sooner you start thinking about what can I do in the summer to, you know, make myself a little bit more competitive, you know, the better you're going to be. You can build an incredible resume just by being proactive about the kind of you know, different opportunities. And one of the things we're trying to do here at ESP is just to make, with environment sustainability policy major, is to make sure that we let you know about as many opportunities as we know about. Okay, there's another question. I recently learned that we're required to double major. What are some common majors students pair with ESP, and what does postgrad look like depending on the pair of majors? That it's a really good question. It really depends. So I had did I have this up? I'm going to just share this again. Some people have already seen this, but let me just share this with you to answer that question, Brenda. It's a great question. So the base major, so these, here we go. These are our approved base majors. So if you come in, you might come in knowing you want to do ESP, but then you might be looking around and going, okay, what should my base major be? Any of these will fit with ESP. Think about, so the supply chain management is a classic example, right? If you're trying to think about how, you're in management, but so you're in, say, the Whitman School, but there's not only sort of the forces of globalization and trade, right, which we're all really, really aware of right now with COVID and what's happening in Ukraine. But there's environmental impacts of sort of those kinds of production and consumption systems and transportation of those. And so all of the different policies that are set up in order to be able to control that all relate to ESP. So if you've got a degree in ESP and supply chain management, you are going to be really well set up to be able to really understand those global systems. So that's one example. And we can come up with an example for probably all of those disciplines, right? Base majors. But the reasons will all be different, right? So, Bob, do you want to try and explain or answer that? Or are you adding to it?
Yes. So the question was, how do these kind of the base major and the ESP major potentially connect? We can kind of think about this more so ESP was created partly to deal with a problem. And the problem at its most basic was, if you were interested in the sciences, you went over here and you just studied with the other scientists. If you were interested in the social science and the humanities, they would probably shuttle you to a different building and you would go over here. But increasingly what we've realized with many environmental issues, environmental justice issues, with large issues such as climate change, it doesn't do any good having the scientists and the people who study human beings, social sciences, scientists, and people in the humanities not into contact with one another, because these problems are interrelated. And we've seen this very strongly with something like climate change. I mean, scientists have been telling us about the reality and the severity of climate change since I was in college 30 years ago. That's how long we have been talking about it. And of course, there have been people around the world, frontline communities, we call them, who've known it for a lot longer. And so realizing if we want to do something about climate change, we need to talk about the social justice, humanities, larger social science and policy issues and bring them together. However, saying that, I mean, the reality, not everybody can be an expert in everything. So what we get is, for instance, is people who are really interested in the sciences, and they're going to be a scientist, but they want to have some exposure to policy, maybe taking a class on environment and religion. How are the great world religions, such as Christianity or Islam, to give just two examples because of just their size? Well, how are those religious communities going to react to climate change? We have other students, for instance, I was talking with a student who's a photojournalist who I think wants to do photographs for like the New York Times or the National Geographic, and she's getting a degree down in Newhouse. And so learning how to be a good photographer, how to use all the technology with that. But then she wants to have some sort of understanding of it, environmental and sustainability issues, because she figures that she is going to be doing photographs related to these topics for her whole career. And she doesn't want to just know how to take the photographs. She wants to know what's behind it. So that's why she's coming to ESP. And again, as Professor Reed says, we could go through all of those majors. I mean, another example is my wife works for BlackRock. BlackRock is a large financial firm based in New York City. And though she didn't have training in this initially, what does she do day in and day out? She works on sustainability initiatives with BlackRock. And so this is a big financial company. So I can imagine students who are interested in Whitman, in business or economics, might come to ESP because they want to learn more about sustainability and why that will be important in their business career.
Hopefully that answers. Hopefully we're answering all your questions. I've just realized it's 8 o'clock. So unless people want to stay on, don't feel that you have to stay on. I'll just, if you want more information, I can just, there we go, I'll share that. Feel free to, you can email me. You can also just go to the webpage and you'll find our contact information. But so there's, if you just go to the Syracuse University ESP major, you will find our webpage. But you know, you can also just email me at jareed@syr.edu if you want to learn more. Oh, I see. Is there one new message? Oh, thank you. All right. So everyone, thank you so very much. If you still have a question, stay on, but otherwise have a great night, everybody. We're really excited that you are here. It's really good to see that everybody's interested. So many people interested in these environmental issues. So yeah, and feel free to email if you have questions.